It was me. Those are the alleged words accused Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson posted on social media just hours before his arrest. We have the latest on the expanding investigation and the political landscape ahead. Plus, why a group with links to the terrorist organization Hamas is praising Emmy winner and HBO star Hannah Einbinder. And the vicious and deadly beating of an 89-year-old woman in a New York City nursing home. Her murderer may never be charged. I'll explain. Those stories and more today, Tuesday, September 16th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. The public relations arm of Hamas was pretty happy with the Emmy Awards Sunday night, with one winner in particular catching their eye. Hannah Einbinder won the Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy for her role in the HBO show Hacks. Great show, great performance. At the very end of her acceptance speech, she quickly added, "Go Birds," an appropriate homage to her and my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Then she was bleeped as she said F ICE and ended with "Free Palestine." It's that last one that caught the attention of a Hamas mouthpiece called Quds News Network. They posted a clip of the actress explaining her support for Palestine backstage when she was speaking to reporters, but the clip, it looked a little bit wonky. The group blurred Hannah from her neck to her waist, specifically her bare shoulders, and it even included the pin she wore on her gown, which was supporting Palestinians. Now, the irony of using Einbinder's speech, but also obscuring her body due to her outfit being deemed unacceptable, was not lost on people. Quds News claims to be an independent news outlet, but it's been accused on multiple occasions of being closely affiliated with Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist groups. And Einbinder probably didn't anticipate turning into a propaganda piece for Hamas when she voiced her support for Palestine. Because to be clear, Hamas is a deadly militant group who are notoriously restrictive about women. They even imposed a code of modesty on how women dress. Now over to D.C., where Mayor Muriel Bowser has said that local police are done cooperating with federal agents. And as you might guess, the president is not pleased. As I've discussed here many times, the president put federal boots on the ground to curtail what he said was rampant crime in the Capitol. But authority to control the D.C. police had a clock on it. The president could only take control for 30 days, and that deadline, it passed last week. He blasted Bowser, blaming her for the, quote, violent crime takeover, and then wrote, "Don't worry, I'm with you and won't allow this to happen. I'll call a national emergency and federalize if necessary." And just yesterday, the president, joined by Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, signed a presidential memorandum to implement a similar D.C. anti-crime plan in Memphis. He also said that Chicago would be next, though he followed that up by saying, quote, "We're gonna wait a while." And from boots on the ground to strikes at sea, President Trump announced Monday that the military had carried out a second strike on suspected drug traffickers from Venezuela. In a post on Truth Social, the president said that 3, quote, male terrorists were killed in the attack. And he added that the boat was in international waters at the time and that no Americans were harmed in the operation. Trump's administration has ramped up pressure on Venezuela recently, first putting a $50 million bounty on the head of the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, and then carrying out a major strike that killed 11 suspected drug traffickers earlier this month. Now to developments in the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation. Tyler Robinson, the suspected assassin, allegedly confessed to shooting and killing Kirk on the online chat platform Discord a few hours before he was arrested, writing, quote, "It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this." His communications about the killing have prompted the FBI to widen their investigation even more into what they call a, quote, extended network that could have aided and abetted the accused shooter. FBI Director Kash Patel also said that Robinson had a text conversation with another individual and prior to the killing had penned a similar written note, effectively copying to planning the murder. Here's Patel on Fox and Friends.
The suspect wrote a note saying, "I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note, and we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
Patel also confirmed that crime scene techs got a positive match on DNA from a screwdriver left on the roof where the shots were fired, as well as from the towel that the discarded rifle was wrapped in. Authorities released new video allegedly showing Robinson casing a residential street near the Utah Valley University campus a few hours before the murder. The first charges in the case are expected today. Joining me now for a deeper dive into the impact this murder has had is the Post's politics reporter, Ryan King. So Ryan, Vice President J.D. Vance hosted Charlie's podcast Monday and said that if it weren't for Charlie Kirk, he wouldn't be vice president right now. So can you tell me what prompted him to say that?
Yeah, well, I think it's twofold. First, Charlie Kirk is known to have privately and publicly lobbied for J.D. Vance to be President Trump's Veep pick. And the two have been close friends for quite a while. And then second, I think Vice President Vance is crediting Charlie Kirk for helping Trump get reelected in 2024 by mobilizing younger voters, particularly young male voters, with his activism on college campus and through social media and elsewhere.
You know, I didn't realize that it was more than just the mobilization of the vote there. The fact that they were such close personal friends, I didn't realize what an integral part Kirk had in getting him on the ticket. Now, on the podcast, the vice president spoke with Stephen Miller, who vowed a crackdown on left-wing groups that promote violence. Who are these groups? What is he suggesting we do about them? And what about conservative groups who espouse the same kind of violence?
Yeah, so neither of them listed off specific groups that they might target, but they said that broadly speaking, they're looking to investigate different left-leaning NGOs that might engage in doxing, where they name individual conservatives or give personal information about conservatives that could be used by activists to potentially target them. I think we could also imagine that they are referencing groups like Antifa or aligned with Antifa and might try to target them as well. And during the podcast, Vance had argued that while there are crazies on the right, he believes that there are more on the left. So that was basically his argument about any right-leaning groups that might engage in violent behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, I heard his point there, but there's always the question of it only takes one person. It only takes one human being with a weapon to create the havoc that we're seeing here. So you can see that if they're going to go after violence, you want to kind of see it balanced on either extreme side there. Now, I want to turn now to Turning Point USA. That's Kirk's group, and the membership there is up big since his death. What's the long-term impact here of Turning Point USA? And do you think interest will wane when the headlines die down? Who picks up the mantle now? Like, really, what's happening with it?
So long-term, I think Charlie Kirk's influence has inspired people to continue fighting for conservative causes on college campuses and fighting these culture war issues. And certainly right now, in the short term, Turning Point USA has really seen a big slew of donations in the wake of Kirk's assassination. And there have been a bunch of college campuses that have talked about opening up chapters for Turning Point USA. So certainly in the short term, we're going to see them become probably a more powerful conservative organization.
Yeah, of course, you have Turning Point USA, the entity, and then you have Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, the person. So, running the entity seems like an easier step forward, but replacing the sort of firebrand of the individual, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be possible, because it does seem like it really started within who he was as a person. Ryan King, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Now to a disturbing story out of Brooklyn, New York. It's almost too ridiculous and too tragic to believe. Sources tell the Post that a 95-year-old woman suffering from dementia beat a fellow nursing home resident to death using the footrest of her wheelchair. The picture of the alleged weapon is on our website. I'll link it in the show notes. It's surprisingly large, and I can only imagine pretty darn heavy. The 89-year-old victim was found lying in bed Sunday night with a serious head injury. The woman was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to her injuries a few hours later. Now, the accused killer was taken to another hospital for a physical and psychological evaluation, and according to our sources, is not facing charges due to her advanced age and condition. Police had not identified either woman involved as of Monday night. And finally today, you might want to put down the cornflakes. I don't want you to lose your breakfast over this next story. It's weird and it's gross and it's about Elton John. Probably not the name you were expecting. Well, Sir Elton underwent a double knee replacement back in January of 2024. Most people who have the procedure leave the hospital with, new knees and not much else. Maybe a pair of those grippy hospital socks, but you don't usually get souvenirs. But I suppose when you're Elton John, you get what you want. And Elton requested his old kneecaps to be put in his hospital goodie bag. Now, if that weren't bad enough or weird enough or gross enough, he then called up jewelry designer Theo Fennell and asked him to turn them into a necklace, a knee necklace. Here is some of how the Rocket Man described the process in a new short documentary called Touched by Gold.
When I had my kneecaps removed, the left one first and then the right, I asked my surgeon if I could keep the kneecaps, which he was rather startled about. And then I rang you and said, would you prepare to, if I gave you the left and the right kneecap, to do what you want with them?
Fennell says he had to bake them to dry them out, which is so gross. He then painted them with acetate to preserve them and then coated the edges in gold. No cap, no kneecap. That's it for today, because where could I possibly go after Elton John's kneecap necklace? The whole time I was telling you that story, my kneecaps felt so weird. Anyone else, they're like, I have weak knees right now. It's very strange. Do me and my kneecaps a favor. Would you like and follow the New York Postcast wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube? And while you wait for me until tomorrow, head over to the New York Post in print or online. You know the kinds of stories we have. They're fascinating. Kneecap necklaces at Elton John's. I would not want to be his secret Santa, because good Lord, what you'd get.